It's April 2025, and the global energy market just got a major shakeup. Canada, the world's fourth largest oil producer, has inked a blockbuster deal to send massive amounts of crude to China, America's biggest economic rival. Social media is buzzing with claims that this deal is worth $104 billion, with some even saying China's cutting U.S. oil imports by 90% to prioritize Canadian crude. Sounds like a game changer, right? But let's cut through the noise and get to the facts. Here's the deal. On April 2nd, 2025, Canada and China finalized an agreement to ramp up oil exports from Canada's western ports, especially Vancouver, to Chinese refineries. While exact figures are murky, no official $104 billion contract has been confirmed. The scale is huge. Canada's already shipping millions of barrels to Asia, and this deal could see exports soar. Why China? They're hungry for heavy crude, the thick, dense oil Canada's Alberta oil sands are famous for. And with tensions rising over US tariffs, Canada's looking east for new buyers. Now, if you're thinking, wait, doesn't Canada send most of its oil to the US? You're spot on. In 2023, 97% of Canada's 4 million barrels per day of oil exports went to the US, with Alberta supplying 87% of that. Midwest refineries like BP's in Whiting, Indiana, are built to process this heavy crude, and they've relied on Canada for decades. But here's the kicker. Trump's recent tariff threats, 25% on Canadian goods, though only 10% on oil, have pushed Canada to diversify. Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith warned back in March that if Trump keeps playing hardball, they'll find other customers, like China. And it looks like they're making good on that promise. We want to support President Trump's energy agenda, but his tariff threats create uncertainty. Alberta is looking for customers in Asia and Europe. And China's all in. They're not just buying oil, they're investing in Canadian infrastructure to keep the crude flowing. Posts on X claim China's slashing US oil imports to favor Canada, though that 90% cut isn't fully verified. What is clear? China's teapot refineries, small private plants, love Canada's heavy crude as a cheaper alternative to US or Venezuelan oil, especially after Trump slapped tariffs on Venezuelan crude. This deal's a win for Canada and China, but is it really leaving the US in the dust? Let's dig deeper. The title of today's video, Trump Freaks Out, comes from the wildfire of reactions online and in the media. YouTube channels and X posts are buzzing with claims that Trump's losing it over this Canada-China deal, with some saying he's panicking as gas prices climb. But is the White House really in meltdown mode? Or is this just classic Trump-style disruption? Let's set the stage. Trump's been pushing an America-first energy agenda since day one, with executive orders to boost drilling, lift bans on Alaskan oil, and speed up pipeline permits. He's all about energy dominance, promising lower gas prices and jobs galore. But his tariffs, especially on Canada, have stirred up trouble. When he announced a 10% tariff on Canadian oil in March, analysts warned it could hike Midwest gas prices by 5 to 20 cents a gallon. In the Northeast, where refineries lean on Canadian crude, prices could jump as much as 40 cents. Ouch! Now, Trump's team says these tariffs are leveraged to renegotiate trade deals, like the USMCA, but Canada's not backing down. They hit back with 25% tariffs on $155 billion of US goods, from cars to whiskey. And this oil deal with China? It's a loud message. Canada doesn't need the US market as much as we think. Trump's response? Mixed signals. On April 9th, he paused tariffs on most countries, but jacked up China's to 125%. Oil prices spiked 4% that day, showing just how jittery markets are. Oh, Canada's making a big mistake. We're the best customer they'll ever have. They'll come back, believe me. Big mistake? Maybe, but Canada's not waiting around. Ex-users are saying Trump's ignorance of how much the US benefits from Canadian oil is costing America big time, and the oil industry's feeling the heat. At CERAWeek in March, execs expressed buyers' remorse over Trump's trade wars, saying the uncertainty's killing investment. One analyst put it bluntly, Trump giveth with drilling permits but taketh away with tariffs. Is he freaking out? Probably not. He's Trump. But the pressure's on to keep his energy promises while markets wobble. All right, let's talk about you. Why does this Canada-China deal matter for everyday Americans? Is the US really being left in the dust, or is this just a speed bump? Let's break it down. First, let's talk gas prices. The US is the world's top oil producer, pumping more crude than anyone. But our refineries, especially in the Midwest, are hooked on Canada's heavy crude. It's cheaper and perfect for their systems. If Canada sends more oil to China, US refineries might face shortages or higher costs. Gas Body's Patrick DeHaan says a 10% tariff on Canadian oil could mean 10-20 cents more per gallon in the Midwest and up to 40 cents in the Northeast. That's real money out of your wallet. Next, the economy. Trump's tariffs are making investors nervous. Oil companies are hitting pause on new projects because they can't predict what's next. Market analysts say U.S. oil production growth could slow to just 200,000 barrels a day this year, down from record highs. That's bad news for jobs and energy stocks. And if China keeps snapping up Canadian oil, it could strengthen their economy while ours takes a hit. Some ex-posts claim China's already cut U.S. oil imports by 90%, though that's not fully confirmed. Then there's the global angle. Canada's move isn't just about oil, it's about leverage. By cozying up to China, they're hedging against Trump's trade war. And China's not stopping there. They're also pushing renewables, with reports saying they're skipping LNG for solar and wind in some markets. If the US gets caught flat-footed, we could lose ground in the energy race. Not just for oil, but for the future. But here's the other side. The US isn't exactly helpless. We're still the top oil producer, with shale fields pumping like crazy. Trump's team says pausing some tariffs and boosting drilling will keep us on top. Plus, Canada's deal with China might not be as game-changing as it seems. OPEC Plus is set to flood the market with heavy crude soon, which could drive prices down and limit Canada's windfall. So, are we in the dust? Not yet, but the clock's ticking. So is this Canada-China deal really changing the oil industry forever? And what's Trump's next move? Here's my take. Canada's playing smart. They're not ditching the US entirely. 97% of their oil still comes our way. But by locking in China as a buyer, they're building a safety net. Trump's tariffs gave them a push, and now they're running with it. For China, it's a double win. Cheaper oil and a chance to stick it to the US in the trade war. But the US isn't out of the game. Our refineries need Canadian crude, and Canada needs our market. A full divorce just isn't practical. Trump's in a tough spot. His tariffs were supposed to make America rich, but they're pushing allies like Canada into China's arms. Gas prices are creeping up, and voters notice. If he doubles down, he risks more retaliation. If he backs off, he looks weak. My guess, he'll try to negotiate a better deal with Canada, maybe easing tariffs for oil in exchange for tougher border policies. But he's got to move fast. China's not waiting around. The bigger question is whether the US can stay ahead in energy. Trump's all in on fossil fuels, but reports say global oil demand might peak soon as renewables take over. Canada and China are hedging their bets. Oil now, clean energy later. If we don't diversify, we could get left behind. Not just by this deal, but by the future. It's not panic time, but it's definitely time to pay attention. And that's the story, folks. Canada and China are shaking up the oil world. Trump's feeling the heat, and America's at a crossroads. Will we step up and stay the energy king, or are we slipping behind? I want your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Are you worried about gas prices? Think Trump's got a plan? And if you're loving US updates, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this. Big thanks to our US updates crew for keeping it real. We'll be back tomorrow with more news you need to know. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and I'll see you on the next one.